Hi and welcome back. And today we're looking at a case study swing pattern, because this is a very common swing pattern or sort of swing movement, if you like, that we'd see um, regularly when coaching, just due to common concepts about the golf swing. So again, this player's done a fantastic job. He's gone from shooting over 100. He's got to 85, and I think even maybe below that now, and he's regularly cuts sort of 15, 20 shots off his game, which is fantastic. So let's highlight some of the common bits of this pattern, and hopefully this can potentially help you and understand a few things about the golf swing. So setup wise, which is always key, which I go on about a lot. So setup wise here we've got a lot of lean on the handle, which is encouraging the chest, the pelvis to point more in front of the ball, and basically his upper centre or his upper part of the middle of his chest is close to the target, and the lower centre, which is the middle of his pelvis, which is really, really common. So that generally causes the body to move in not a great way, let's say, and encourages a more vertical or steeper swing. So the concepts around this swing were trying to keep a really wide one-piece takeaway, so really straight arms, again a very common concept that a lot of people have. This problem with this is that if you keep the arm too straight for too long, it's kind of when do you actually bend this arm? And then that can cause problems with when it bends, how much it bends, and how the lever works at the top of the swing. Also this right shoulder, when the right arm stays really straight for a long period of time, the shoulder goes past its range of movement. It's going to influence the body. So what we'll see is that because of the setup and how straight the arms are, the head actually moves toward the target on the backswing, which you wouldn't really want. We can see the nose pointing in front of the ball, and then what we'll start to see as we work into the backswing, because working on a very straight arm takeaway, then basically trying to turn a lot, and then really trying to compress the ball or turn onto it. So when we get to this point, when the nose looks in front of the ball, the head tends to block this shoulder, so it's in the way. Again, this is really common. So when the head's blocking the shoulder, there's nowhere for the swing to go, let's say, or the body to go, apart from really up. So it'll just very slightly sort of start to lift with the body. The left knee collapses into and allow the swing to carry on, let's say, and the right leg kind of over straightens, and the pressure goes a bit on the outside of the right leg. And again, because the arms are so straight at the start, they basically have to collapse at the top. So now the left elbow bends and the club kind of overhinges. That's partly because of the body position and partly because it was so straight for so long. It's got to bend and create a lever at some point, so it kind of tends to collapse at the top of the swing. So again, due to that setup and how the backswings work, his hips and knees point toward the floor. His upper centre looks more toward the target than the lower centre. This is a typical position or position that would make someone swing too vertical. So this is what I see every day, and I work on with clients every day. So these are real key bits. The setup in terms of the arrangement of the body, and the radius or what you're doing with your arms or how wide the arms are moving along with the club, and then the effect that's got on the upper and lower body to ultimately, if you get the upper and lower body kind of in the right place along with the pressure, then the club should pretty much shallow or do most of the good stuff that you want it to do automatically. So the new one, obviously setup's very different. So we've got the upper centre slightly more behind the lower centre, much neater and tidier, hands not leaning as far forward. So now we worked on the radius. So as we compare these two, if we go side by side, obviously the arms, the gap here is gone, and the right arm's not as straight. So we've got more of what I call a setting motion and a soft fold in the arm at the beginning. So now we've started to actually set this lever system earlier. And then from here, because of the shoulder position in terms of the shoulder not being pushed as high as soon, and the setup and how the nose looks just behind the ball, then when he turns, his right side can go back, so his right pocket gets deeper and he coils, and now his upper body looks slightly behind his lower body, which is going to be the opposite of the original one. Now this position is really easy to draw it from, whereas the other one it's not. So this swing's relied on understanding the setup, radius, and the fact that the arms don't need to be dead straight, and basically kind of the upper and lower body arrangement. So even in the backswing here, we've actually let him feel like he moves his head a little bit. So in the backswing, Anthony feels like he moves his head in this direction, which you see a lot of good players do, Tiger included, and that frees off the upper body and helps with the turn and the movement. So now to refer back to the original one, this initial movement on the way down is a lot of rotational movement. So the golf swing is not just a turn, there's some lateral movement and extensional movement as well, so it's a three-dimensional force. So this one, as the hip rotates, because of the body position, basically you're turning onto it with the body or the upper body toward the target, so it's going to throw the club over the top and too steep and too vertical. So now there's a lot of turn, but when he hits, he looks like he's kind of on his back leg. That's a compensator or a way to actually shallow the swing out. And at the bottom, it's a lot of forced turn, trying to make the body feel like it turns and faces the target, which isn't really what you want necessarily. As early as this in the swing, and then the club actually goes to the left, and we can see his left arm retract behind his body. And then again, this is a very, very common look, which if we highlight the back foot here, we can see the heel start to what I call spin out around the toe. So the heel goes that way, which indicates too much rotational movement. So he never gets pressure banking onto the inside of his foot, which is what you need. That's the initial lateral movement of the swing, and that helps shallow the club. It drops the club in the slot, let's say. So a lot of golfers have a lot of rotation, but they have enough lateral movement to allow them to shallow the club correctly. So this one, downswing, we're working on feeling like he's leaning. The pressure starts to move and bank more onto the inside of this foot. And this two-handed, it feels like he's not turning, right? So we've got kind of a three-quarter way through position here in terms of finish. Then he'd just let his knee come in and look to the target, and that would finish that movement off. But now he's got pressure into his front leg. So he's balanced on this. Whereas the front one here, we can see how this back leg looks very different with a lot of twisting movement, right? So now he's banked on the inside of that foot, and he can control his arms and where the club goes, which we can't really do on this one. And when we look from the back view in a sec, we'll see how the club's now starting to shallow out and come more from the inside, and now he hits draws instead of fades. Okay, so I just wanted to take you through the case study that we're looking at to help visualise and understand the bit change we've made and how this might be able to help you. So again, really quickly, the original one, which is really, really common, chest and pelvis pointing too much in front of the ball, handle also leaning too far forward, and then from here, again, see this very, very often coaching, everything pointing too much in front of the ball. As you then start to make the backswing, your head on the left side, kind of one, it's a little bit in the way of the backswing, and two, as I start to swing back here, it's very difficult not to swing where either my right side lifts, my left side's a bit lower, my body sways. So in our case, study's case, when you combine that with a wide one-piece takeaway, and the chest is pointing in front of the ball, you get to this point here, and you go, well, my body's quite stuck now. One, my rib cage and everything's pointing over here, which makes it difficult to move. Two, my right arm's quite straight, so this shoulder gets jammed up. And then from there, you have to try and manufacture some sort of turn potentially, and you end up kind of twisting yourself into a bit of a knot really without the right geometry of the body to bring the club the correct way into the ball. And then from there, again, concept of trying to turn onto the ball and lean the handle forward to try and compress it. But because of the body position, the club's going to come in a little bit too steep. And if the club comes in too steep, you can't actually have your arms looking sort of in this impact position we see the good players get into, otherwise you'd hit the floor too heavy and take a big divots, then you end up bending the wrists and arms, compromises strike, difficult to get the consistency of the strike and the flight. So change in terms of setup, we did a lot of work on just arms out like this, then you can see where the middle of the chest is pointing, you can even put a club in the middle of the chest, start pointing the chest in the middle of the pelvis and the nose, kind of at the ball, like this. Bring the arms into the middle of the body. Just gives a very simple way to get the kind of positioning of the body correct. And then we can see that this left shoulder kind of plumb bobs or hangs down the left side of the outside of the left leg here. And then that's the kind of geometry of the body that we're generally looking for. So from here, that gives us an opportunity or chance to actually move differently in the backswing with where the upper body and lower body is. So something I'm working on all the time with normal golfers is their upper body and lower body centre where that is. Most people get this way. And if you want to be able to shallow the club, they need to be able to be on top of each other or even behind it if you want to draw by a swing. So once we've got the setup in place, really then it's the takeaway looking a little bit more where this right arm isn't as straight at this point. Right? So it kind of looks a little bit softer. It doesn't have to bend loads, but it's got some soft bend in it in relation to this. That allows the shoulder to work differently. So then as we swing back, the shoulders and body's going to be able to turn in a different direction. So now what happens is, in our case today, is the right side is going to be able to go back rather than up, as you see here. That's going to allow us to coil and load pressure onto the inside of this leg, which is what we want, and the upper body and lower body centre will be more as we'd like here. So this takeaway here, which we rehearsed quite a lot, so kind of working on some presetting the club in this position, and the arms can lift and the body can move a bit, so that's a very simple drill to actually achieve what we're looking for on the way back. And then downswing wise, because of how much, in our case study, they're always trying to clear and turn through, the club from the back, you'd get very it it wasn't coming over here, it'd get quite trapped behind his right arm. So he was coming in steep with the club, but the right arm was trapped behind the hip a lot, so it'd make it very easy to hit the ground first or struggle to find strike. So in this case we're looking at, once we got to this point, the feel was that the arms would swing past the right hip, so the arms coming back in front of the rib cage, which would deliver the club quite neutral. So it's not too far behind, it's not too far in front of it. So the feel is the arms swing past the body, like this. And at the end, this wouldn't happen at the end, but it'd feel it. We shift pressure onto the inside of this foot here, so we're moving laterally. So we can hit against this leg. You've got to hit against your front leg, ideally for golf, for the majority of people out there. So we're swinging the club down. That allows the club to get more in the correct relationship to the body, so we're not trapped. Then as we're coming through, we're posing with the pressure on the inside of this back foot and kind of in this position. Well, the upper body still feels behind the lower body because, again, in our case study, which again is really common, the upper body was always in front of the lower body coming in. So really we need the feel of swapping that around. Just something like this. And then in the video we're looking at, we're kind of in this 3/4 finish, and then we can finish that off kind of like this essentially. So, but again, in our case study, it really feels like he's not turning. Obviously he is, right? He's shifting pressure and turning like this, but it doesn't feel like turning in comparison to trying to work really hard with this left hip. So the key points we worked on: setup routine, something like this, working on the radius of what the arms do at the start, and then that allows us to turn better. And then really the feel is that the club does a lot of the work, and actually the club gives energy to the body that doesn't actually happen but feels like it compared to the original. And working on posing the finish a lot. If you pose a finish in the right place, you have to do a lot of good stuff leading up to that. So we kind of use that to simplify the downswing. Okay, I hope that gives you a real brief and quick insight into changes to be made. Hope it helps. Any questions? Fire them over. Okay, so again from the back, we're a little bit taller in terms of the posture, not leant over quite as much. Then, as we work the club back here, this is very much the straight arm one-piece style takeaway, just too much of it, with a lot of turn. So again, typically when you watch good players swing, they don't have such a big gap in the legs here. That indicates normally too much turn. So this one, as we go back, difference. We've got a small gap in between the legs, and the club's obviously in a very different position. Again, he could swing slightly longer than this, but this is, when we're training the swing and building the pattern in. So as we start the downswing on the original one with a lot of turn, and essentially he's trying to compress the ball because he knows he doesn't, and he flips it a bit. So he's trying to turn his chest onto it and push the handle forward, which doesn't work when you've got a steep body or the club's coming in too vertical or too steep, because basically you'd smash the ground. So now what we'll see here, which is again very common and a trait of someone who tends to slice it, the club comes down looking a little bit vertical and close to the left forearm when we look at it from this view on camera. That indicates the club's not coming from behind us enough essentially. So the new one, as he comes down here, the club now comes more by the bottom forearm, as we can see here, so very different when compared to the original. As we flip back to the original one again, the club's going to now kind of approach almost you can see the heel just starting to line up with the ball here. Obviously the face is looking to the right, so then it can be very difficult to square the face. Again, he's very worried about kind of flipping it, so he doesn't want any feel of any hand action through the bottom, which basically makes it impossible for him to square the club face. Now with this one, when he's coming through, I'm making him feel like he's really using his wrists a lot, but in the correct way. So now the club comes from just inside the line of the ball, as we can see here. The club face is squaring up, and then through the end, he's got a different feel of the exit in terms of the body feels very tall. Pressure's on the inside of the back foot, whereas this one, the club tracks to the left quite a lot, and he gets there's very short of room through the bottom of the swing.